regarding the creation of outdoor commercial spaces within streets right-of-way. These are generally referred to as parklets. A parklet would be a deck which would be accommodating most of the parking spaces. And if you look, we have some examples that show some parklets in other communities. This may or may not be associated with a restaurant, and the parklet itself would be open to the public on a 24/7 basis. Since this involves the private use of a public right-of-way, city staff, in conjunction with the Downtown Association staff, worked to develop policies which were provided to the City Council for consideration this evening. The Downtown Association Board reviewed the policies and proposed the idea of an initial 2-year pilot program which will allow up to 2 parklet spaces to be included within the downtown core. I would note that once a property owner would request a parklet, our draft policies would state that this would come back to City Council for consideration. Tonight it's recommended that the Council consider the proposal of a pilot project for a 2-year period and, if approved, adopt the resolution which would create these policies.
Do you have any questions from the Council?
Will there be a presentation, or are we just going to go straight? I do have some questions. I really like the idea. I read the requirements that the Downtown Association Committee has put together, and I think they're mostly really great. And I also reviewed some other cities' regulations, and also, in full disclosure, had a talk with Dulcie Taylor, the president of the Downtown Association, about this over the weekend. So there was, let's see, when on number 6.
And if Mr. Harrington could come forward as well, because Jeff has been working on this just now.
So number 6 in the regulations says that they shall be considered public spaces, therefore will be available to the general public 24 hours a day when not occupied by the business which installed the structure. So that would then take it out of public and into private. And Seattle has parklets, which are available 24 hours a day to the public, and streeteries, which are generally associated with restaurants, and in that case they are sort of dedicated to the business that installed it during their business hours. So I would suggest that we just eliminate that last bit of language, when not occupied by the business which installed the structure, if it's going to be a public space available to the
So under this suggestion, there was discussion with the Downtown Association Board about the use of the term streetery, and I believe the Downtown Association Board requested that language be removed.
Yes.
And so with this terminology, we were just calling them all parklets, and it would allow for restaurants, per se, to be able to use that as outdoor dining space. The intent was to be able to allow that under the terminology of a parklet for the city of Astoria. And when it was not being used by a restaurant, that it would then be open to anybody who wished to utilize that space.
Okay, but so how do you, what sort of language, I would just suggest making some better language that would address, for instance, another sort of business that is not a restaurant, that wants to create a parklet, you know, that would be open open to the public 24 hours a day. There would be no private service.
So
I get that the word is stupid, street, but you know, if you're going to, there are differences in these parklets, and the private ones are streeteries, and the public ones are parklets. I just think we need to clarify that.
It's a little confusing because there's nothing in these 22 principles that talks about food and drink service. So I think language needs to be included that says food and drink may be served or consumed in them, because there is number 16, no merchandise will be allowed on the parklet. So this means it's not like a sidewalk, that kind of thing. So I think we need some clarification on food and drink may be served and consumed in these parklets, but merchandise may not, just for clarity, as Councilor Price has suggested.
Okay.
Picking up on her lead.
Maybe I could just go through real quickly my comments. I don't see any, I think an application fee, say $100 non-refundable, an annual permit fee of, I don't know, $200 or $100. These are lovely things that will help the businesses that they're in front of, and it will take some staff time to review them and volunteer time, and I think we should be compensated for them, and there probably is some permit processing anyway. There in Eugene has, in their requirements, they have a number of requirements that are about, no loose gravel or sand, things that can, go into the street or into the sidewalks and just cause a problem. And also says that, floor materials need to be slip resistant even in Eugene rain, and that all materials must be safe for use and for the environment. And those seem like good things to me as well. I'd like to see smoking of all sorts prohibited. And let's see, there was one other. I think the application form, as we've seen just from our earlier comments, having a really good, concise application form that is reviewed by our city attorney is really important. And I think that's about it. Oh,
And all of this for just a pilot project?
yeah, and also the big question I had was, are there businesses that are already identified to be the two part of this pilot project? Or is it going to be some sort of design competition? And another very important thing, very quickly, I read the Daily Astorian's piece, and I thought Councilor Nimmerwell made a really good point, and I think that we could address that a little bit here, which is that I would recommend a requirement that everything from design, materials, services, vendors used to create this be local. Use it as a job creation program.